Everybody, we are here. We're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat and then we can get today's stream started. And while I'm waiting for the excuse me, and while I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live chat, if you haven't already, please drop a one, or excuse me, while I'm waiting for the ones to come into the live chat, if you haven't already, please hit the like button because that's the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does is that it helps to make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video all out on your social media platforms to your family and friends so that they can get this news and information. And that also helps give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And also make sure to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link to the Telegram is in the description box below. And it will be pinned in the live chat after the stream is over. So now let me reset myself because I'm already starting out the stream a bit tongue-tied. Woosai. Okay, now we're ready. Let's get into today's show. Let's get into it. So many of you are already familiar with or should be familiar with the fact that any day now or any time now, or any minute, any second now, a migrant caravan carrying about 2,000 plus illegal immigrants should be reaching the Texas-U.S. border. Like I said, really anytime soon, if it hasn't happened already while I'm in the middle of speaking, right? But what hasn't been discussed that much is the fact that a memo has gone out stating that it is expected that illegal immigrants at the border are possibly going to get more aggressive as time carries on. And this is a memo that was put out as this caravan is on its way to the U.S. Mexico border right now, just to prepare Border Patrol agents, the Texas National Guard, and all the other law enforcement officers that are that play a part in assisting the protection of the U.S. Mexico border. So what I want to do right now very quickly is that I want to get into this New York Post article first. And we're going to go through a series of articles, and then we're going to go through a series of video clips, a few News Nation clips. So right now, let me pull this New York Post article up. And while I'm pulling it up, please drop a one in the live chat. I should say, please hit the like button if you haven't already. I don't know why I'm so foggy today in the brain, right? But here's the New York Post article, and let's jump into this right now and see what they're talking about as it pertains to the current caravan that's headed to the U.S. as we speak. Like I said, if it hasn't touched, if it has not touched down already, right? So let's jump into this. And the title reads as such: thousands of migrants set to arrive in a massive El Paso-bound caravan in just a few days. Let's get into this. A new 2,000-person migrant caravan is making its way north to the U.S. border and is expected to reach El Paso, Texas in just the next few days. Now, mind you, this article was written about 3 days ago. So if they're not here already, they will be here very, very soon. Video posted online show a swarm of people walking through the streets of southern Mexico on Monday, and I'm going to play that video for you shortly. In one clip, an apparent leader could be seen encouraging the group through a bullhorn to chant "Al Frontera," meaning to the border. So that's what they're chanting. There is a leader at the head of the pack chanting "To the border we go." That almost sounds like an invasion call, an invasion cry. If you ask me, there's a leader at the head of the caravan with a bullhorn saying "to the border." That sounds like charge. We're headed to invade. That's what it sounds like to me. The group proclaimed in Spanish, get this: "We are not criminals. We are international workers." There are no such thing as international workers, not to the degree that you're seeing them here, right? Let me blow this up right now. Let me blow this photo up for you. Not to the degree that you're seeing them here like this in mass. Those aren't international workers, and claiming to be an international worker is not a legitimate asylum seeking claim, right? That is not a legitimate asylum seeking claim. Saying that I'm an international worker, there are actually visas put in place for that, if that's what you're trying to do. And clearly that's not what they're doing, because they haven't applied for any international work visas. They're just storming the border with literally a leader on a bullhorn stating, to the border we go. And they're just expecting to waltz right into the country, as they will, and essentially get whatever they want, as they will, and as they've been doing. But under no circumstances is this legitimate asylum seeking, nor is this a legitimate claim for asylum, to just simply say we're international workers. Being an international worker is not a legitimate asylum seeking claim. The article continues to read, meanwhile, the Texas National Guard has deployed two planes carrying 200 members of tactical border force to El Paso, according to KTSM. The group specializes in incidents of civil disobedience, a spokesperson for the Texas National Guard told the station. And that's what we're getting ready to get into next, is the reason why they're doing that. I'm going to read that one more time. The group specializes in incidents of civil disobedience, a spokesperson for the Texas National Guard told the station. Their deployment comes just days after a group of migrants stormed the border in El Paso, tearing down a border wall wrapped in barbed wire, and trampling over Border Patrol agents in their way. Texas authorities have charged 9 migrants involved in the breach last Thursday. Now, here's what's interesting about that, about those 9 so-called migrants, illegal immigrants, that is, who were charged. Oftentimes, when you hear about that story, of all the illegal immigrants that stormed the border, we've all seen the video for that, and the insanity that followed behind it and how crazy it looked. What happened now? Because we did hear that these folks were arrested. At least that's what was stated, right? And they were arrested. But yesterday, right, on Easter, and what's crazy to me is that last time I checked, I thought, the courts and judges weren't working on Easter. But yesterday, during Easter, if I'm not mistaken, it was during Easter, a judge ordered that all those individuals who were detained, the illegal immigrants that stormed the border, that tore down the barbed wire wall and trampled all over Border Patrol, they were recently released. Illegal immigrants accused in border stampede released by El Paso judge on Easter Sunday. Once again, I have a strong feeling that had I got locked up for whatever reason being last Friday night, if I would have gotten locked up, I would have spent Easter in jail. I'm pretty sure I would have spent Easter in jail. I'm willing to bet anything on the fact that me, as a U.S. citizen, had I did something stupid enough to go to jail by Friday night, Easter, I would have still been in jail, because there wouldn't have been a judge or court open or available to say that I could be released on Easter. But funny enough, and we're kind of seeing this trend, this reoccurring trend over and over again, of illegal immigrants on many levels seeming to have almost more rights and privileges than citizens. Criminal illegal immigrants who tore down federal property and assaulted federal officers and state officers were released on Easter by a judge. Let's get into this very quickly. It's only about, the equivalent of a paragraph. I just want to read this for you very fast before you move on to the next thing, right? On Easter Sunday, an El Paso judge ordered the release of illegal immigrants accused of involvement in a border riot when a stampede overwhelmed National Guard troops along the Rio Grande earlier this month, the El Paso Times reported. Court officials also stated that undocumented migrants will stay jailed if there is a federal immigration hold blocking their release, the El Paso Times reported. Judge Humberto, Humberto, Judge Humberto Acosta made his ruling on Sunday, March 31st, during an online teleconference bond hearing where he accused El Paso District Attorney's Office of not being ready to proceed with detention hearings for each defendant, according to the outlet. It is the ruling of the court that all the rioting participation cases will be released on their own recognizance, Acosta ordered. I'm going to read that one more time. And it's amazing to see, once again, us as poor, dumb, goofy US citizens. If one of us messed around and got ourselves placed in jail, Friday night, we would have definitely been there at least till Monday morning. But, once again, we're seeing privileges that illegal immigrants have that apparently US citizens don't have. A judge ordered their release on a Sunday. So apparently the courts and judges are available on days that folks like you and me would have just had to sit in jail for, right? Once again, the judge stated, it is the ruling of the court that all the rioting participation cases will be released on their own recognizance, Acosta ordered. That is amazing. No consequences at all are being handed out, essentially to those who participated in that border riot. No consequences at all whatsoever, with the exception of the 9 individual illegal immigrants that we continue to hear about that were arrested and charged, because I believe those were the ones out of everyone. They did the most, right? They did the most, though all of them should remain in jail, right? Being prosecuted. Out of the 100 or so that participated in that, apparently the 9 that you continue to hear about were the ones that were really out here wilding out and putting hands and feet, on the Texas National Guard, which is crazy. But the reality is that they know and understand that there are no consequences for their actions when they act out this way. And that's what we're going to get into next as I get into these 2 News Nation videos. The first video is going to consist of the president of the National Border Patrol Council, Brandon Judge. I'm gonna say that one more time because I don't know why I'm so tongue-tied today. Brandon Judd, president of National Border Patrol Council. We're going to get into a video concerning what he has to say about all this first. And then afterwards, we're going to hear what Chad Wolf had to say, who is the former acting director of the Department of Homeland Security. Essentially, they're both going to echo the sentiments that I've stated numerous times over, and that we've read in articles like this, where just in a nutshell, there are no consequences for illegal immigrants acting the way that they do when they storm the border, let alone once they get here into the States and they're dealing with Chicago PD, NYPD, Washington PD, LAPD. We know how that goes, right? We don't have to get into all that and their unwillingness to cooperate with ICE to jail violent illegal immigrant criminals. We already know how that goes. But once again, it's good to hear this coming from men who are actually in these official positions of authority, echo the same things that we have discussed on this channel over and over again, right? Because who am I? I'm just some guy talking into a laptop in South Central Los Angeles. Clearly, I'm nobody. But you can't say that about the men that you're getting ready to see appear on your screen right now. So I want to take a moment to pull that up for you. And as I'm pulling that up, there are 291 of you in the live stream right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already, as I pull this video clip up for you right now. The first clip is going to be, once again, of Brandon Judd, president of National Border Patrol Council. Let me pull him up right now, And also,
Brandon.
let me not forget let me not forget to thank all those who have supported today's stream so far, because once again, I don't exist without you guys and your support. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, College of Natural Health Sciences, BDA, for stating, my black dog and I know it's hard out here for a Russian bot grifter. It is hard out here for a Russian bot grifter. Once again, for those of you who don't know, you might be new to the channel. I'm not a real person. TD does not exist in real life. I am a Russian bot powered by artificial intelligence and Chat GPT that was created by Putin to push misinformation on YouTube. And clearly I need a system update and a system reboot because I've been glitching quite a bit today as I've been extremely tongue-tied for some reason. I don't know why, but it's time for Putin to give me a system update. Thank you very much, College of Natural Health and Sciences, for your support. Shout out to Saul for always coming through, just here to support. Thank you, Saul. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you very much, Cutthroat Nash, for always coming through. He said, oh, look at the judge last name. Of course. I mean, I'm not surprised, and I see you're not either. Look at that last name. Judges working on a Sunday. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that at all. Shout out to Saul again for coming through. Talk about a speedy trial, right? Extremely speedy trial. They're just in and out of jail just like that. Once again, on an Easter Sunday, which is crazy. Shout out to Jerry Early for coming through. Thank you, TD Media Group, listening from Hawaii. I appreciate you, Jerry, for always coming through and showing love. And lastly, thank you very much for Alonda. Alonda stated, TD, can I make an argument that the illegal immigrants storming the border have more rights than the WS, the white supremacists storming the Capitol on January 6th? You could make that argument. You could make that argument. You could make the argument that the illegal, it's very clear that the illegal immigrants storming the border have more rights than the men and women who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. It's very clear at this point because they're in jail getting body slammed with football numbers. A lot of them are getting hit with crazy football numbers, 35 years, 45 years, 22 years in prison. But as you can see here, these gentlemen that stormed the U.S. border, they got released on Easter Sunday, which is crazy. Now let's get into this video clip here. Concerning what, once again, Brandon Judd had to say, president of president of the National Border Patrol Council. Let's jump into what he has to say right here.
Joining us now is Brandon Judd, the president of the National Border Patrol Council. Brandon, thank you for joining us. You heard from Ali. There's this warning that went out about escalating violence against law enforcement officers at the border. Is that something that your officers are starting to see with their own eyes?
We've been seeing it for an awful long time. It just so happened that this incident got caught on video, but that's not something that's new to us. It's something that we've been seeing for a long time, and it's a learned behavior. And that's what's so frustrating to every single one of us, is we recognize that they have been taught that if they violate the laws, if they assault us, if they spit at us, if they whatever they do, threaten us, they know that they're not going to be charged. They know that there's not going to be a consequence. And that's the purpose of our laws. When you enforce consequences, you are trying to deter people from violating those laws. But when you don't enforce any consequences, then you're teaching them that it's okay. It's okay to violate our laws. It's also okay to assault us. It's also okay to threaten us. It's okay to do all those things. And that's what this administration, unfortunately, has taught these individuals. And this information gets spread through social media. It gets spread by the cartels. That's how they're able to go out and advertise their services, get people to put themselves in their hands. And that's what's really unfortunate. The only way to curb this is if you start prosecuting or start enforcing a consequence to a violation of the law.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people are confused.
See, now before we carry on, I want to highlight the fact that he's stating this is a learned behavior. And it's a learned behavior that at this point in time, everyone knows that, you can storm the border. And even when you get into the interior of the United States, you can essentially do what you want, whether you're beating up on NYPD or whether you're beating up on the National Guard. There are no consequences for these actions. You can essentially do whatever you want to do and don't have to worry about being prosecuted. All right. And word is spreading now on the other side of the border that the US is candy. US is candy. It's sweet over there. It's sweet over there. At least while Biden is in office, it's sweet over there. And as long as Biden is in office, you can do whatever you want. It's a free for all. You can be as violent as you want to be, as vulgar as you want to be, as ridiculous and ignorant as you want to be. You can punch Border Patrol in the face. You can punch NYPD in the face, and you'll get off scot free. You'll get off scot free. And this is what we've continued to see. Now let's carry on and hear what more, some more of what Brandon Judd had to say.
Prosecuting or start enforcing a
a
consequence to a violation of the law.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people are confused by in that viral video now where you see them rushing through the barbed wire is they're like, why aren't the National Guard stopping them? Like, take some action, stop them. But my understanding is with
this is very interesting what he's going to say here, because once again he's asking, clearly you heard him, I'm interrupting for YouTube purposes, why weren't the illegal immigrants stopped the first time around? Why weren't they stopped the first time around? And he's going to get into that right now. And the other thing too that I don't want to go over everyone's heads as it pertains to the information that he's putting forth, and that I meant to acknowledge a second ago, is that as it pertains to the riot at the border that was caught on camera by the New York Post that we saw go viral, Brandon Judd stated that this actually happens quite frequently. The only difference between the past and now is that this was the first time it was caught on camera, right? But now that it's caught on camera, and we're seeing, as I just read earlier, those that were involved in that riot got released on an Easter Sunday, that just sends the signal out to the illegal immigrants on the other side of the border, once again, that the U.S. is candy. It's candy for the taking. Now let's get back into the question that was asked by the reporter.
Barbed wire is they're like, why aren't the National Guard stopping them? Like, take some action, stop them. But my understanding is with Operation Lone Star, and correct me if I'm wrong, the National Guard can really just stand there and sort of, almost like as a show of force, but that they're not allowed to actually like stop anyone. Is that true?
No, it's not true. In fact, they do deploy a lot of different less lethal options. Texas DPS does that as well. Unfortunately, at that specific time, those tools weren't there, and the Border Patrol didn't step in to help. And that's, again, what makes every single Border Patrol agent mad is when we know that we're supposed to be doing that job, but the government of Texas has to step in because we're not allowed to do that job. So there are less lethal.
I'm going to stop there before I lose what I want to say. He said what makes U.S. Border Patrol mad is that they're not allowed to do that job. So now Texas National Guard and the Texas DPS, which stands for Texas Department of Public Safety, they have to step in and do these things. The U.S. Border Patrol, who this individual Brandon Judd is with, they answer directly to the President of the United States, which is obviously Joe Biden. Under Joe Biden, their hands are tied. They can't do anything. They can't defend themselves, and they literally cannot defend the border. U.S. Border Patrol, who this man Brandon Judd represents, they've been regulated to essentially customer service agents. That's what they've been regulated to. They're customer service agents. And because now they're customer service agents, it's up to Texas National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas DPS, to come in and actually provide defense for the border, right? They're actually allowed to use, tear gas, rubber bullets, the projectile guns that shoot out bean bags. They can do it because they're not under the order. They're not under the order of Biden, right? They're not under the surveillance of Biden. They're under Greg Abbott. So I just wanted to make sure to highlight that as well, because it's very interesting to hear and to see. And it's very important that we hear it come out of the mouth of a Border Patrol agent, that it's not us that just say these things. This is the actual Border Patrol agent who's the president, right? He's the president of the National Border Patrol Council, who's stating that under this administration, our hands are tied and we're literally not allowed to do anything because we're just customer service agents at this point. Let me rewind that back a little bit and let it play some more.
That's again what makes every single Border Patrol agent mad is when we know that we're supposed to be doing that job, but the government of Texas has to step in because we're not allowed to do that job. So there are less lethal force options out there. Right there at that particular time, they weren't there. The tools weren't there. So they are making sure that those tools are there throughout this entire situation and going forward.
And another thing that's confusing, Brandon, is you see these National Guardsmen in Texas in the barbed wire, but I was just in Arizona at the border last week, and it's like a totally different scene. I mean, it's wide open. There's no, I mean, you've got the Border Patrol out there working as hard as they can, but there's only so many of them, and there's these big gaps in the wall that we saw where people are able to walk right through. So in Texas, they're securing things, but can't these folks just go right to Arizona and walk in?
That's in fact what's happening. That's where I'm at. I'm in Arizona myself. That's where the vast majority of our apprehensions are taking place right now. And so what we've seen is since Governor Abbott has been employing different policies and programs, what we've seen is this huge shift to New Mexico, Arizona, and California, where the cartels recognize that these are governors that aren't going to do what Governor Abbott is doing. And so we've seen a drop from 60% of the apprehensions taking place in Texas to where now it's only 30% of those apprehensions are taking place there. And the shift is on by the cartels to where we're now seeing majority in Arizona. We're seeing high numbers in California, and we're also seeing high numbers in New Mexico. And New Mexico is what's really troubling because, you know, in my 25-year career, we've never seen large numbers through New Mexico, and now that's starting to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it controls the problem in Texas, but then they just moved to another state, and it doesn't really fix anything for the nation.
Now, the last thing that I want to highlight before we move on to the next clip is the fact, and we've discussed this before, is that silently, and I say this silently because this is something that's really promoted on mainstream media much for obvious reasons. The reality being that, you know, Democrat Party pretty much controls all of mainstream media, is that Operation Lone Star in Texas by Greg Abbott has silently been working. As he just stated, they went from 60% border crossings encounters, right, as far as like apprehending illegal immigrants. When you take into account all the illegal immigrants pouring over the U.S. border, they used to consist of 60% of the apprehensions, you can call it, right? Now they only account for 30%. So that's very interesting to bring that into perspective, right? As it pertains to all of the barriers that Biden has put in front of Greg Abbott, all of the lawsuits that he's put in the front of Greg Abbott to stop him from actually protecting the Texas border. Despite all the hurdles and obstacles that Abbott has had to jump over, nonetheless, he's been successful to a good degree in preventing border crossings in Texas. Now, I can only imagine how much more successful he would be if Biden would just step out the way and let him control his border and protect his border as he has a right to and as he should be able to do. But Biden keeps jumping in the way, right? So now what I want to do is I want to get into another clip, still from News Nation. This one coming from Chad Wolf. Once again, Chad Wolf is a former acting director of the Department of Homeland Security, and he's really just going to reiterate everything that we've heard already. So though it may seem like at this point we're just beating a dead horse at this point, it's extremely important to see that this is coming from all sides of the professional landscape as it pertains to those who are actually involved with protecting the border, right? That they're all saying the same thing. There are zero consequences. We need to be able to actually enforce border law, right? Or immigration law. We need to bring back to the forefront consequences. Chad Wolf is going to discuss how we need to end catch and release and how nonsensical it is, right? This is all stuff that has happened due to Biden's own doing concerning the end of catch and release and repealing all of the Trump era border control measures. And as he stripped those things away and put in place this nonsense catch and release policy, he then turns around and says, this migrant crisis is the Republicans' fault and it's the fault of Trump, when clearly it's your fault. And everyone that we're listening to right now continues to state the same thing. So let's get into that right now. But before we do, there are 447 of you in the stream right now. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. That is extremely important to the growth of this channel. And I do want to thank Cutthroat Nash for coming through once again with the super chat and the support for the channel. And I didn't know Cutthroat Nash was a former soldier. Okay, so we have a veteran in the building. All this time, Cutthroat Nash, you've been all in the chat, supporting the channel, and you didn't tell us that you're a veteran. All right, well, salute to you, Cutthroat. Cutthroat said, as a former soldier, the YouTube algo won't let me write what I would have did if I was there in that situation. Yeah, you can't write that, Cutthroat. You can't put that. YouTube won't allow what you would have done if you were there. YouTube definitely won't allow that. And thank you for the support, bro. Always coming through. I can always depend on Cutthroat Nash and many more of you as well for coming through and showing support for the channel. Now let's get into the next clip. This one coming from Chad Wolf, right? So let me pull that one up for you right now.
With us now to continue this conversation is former acting director of the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Chad Wolf. Mr. Wolf, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. You saw that video. What were your first thoughts when you saw those agents being rushed like that?
Well, it's very concerning. Obviously, our first instinct should be for the safety of those officers, whether they're Border Patrol officers, DPS, Texas DPS, or National Guardsmen. And so anytime that you see an aggressive situation like that with illegal aliens coming from all over the world, right, coming along that southern border, you want to make sure that your law enforcement is safe and protected. And then the second thing that obviously comes to mind is the fact that they feel emboldened, they feel empowered to actually rush that border and to tear down some of that wire and fencing, the temporary fencing that you see there. And so I think that's concerning. I think that tells you there's a different type of migrant that is now coming across that southern border than what we've seen in years past.
He said there is a different type of migrant that is coming across the border than what we've seen in years past. Once again, this man's name is Chad Wolf, former acting director of the Department of Homeland Security. We're seeing a different type of migrant come across that border now, a more aggressive, hostile migrant, illegal immigrant coming across the border now. And we've never seen anything like this before, whether it's the type of aggression that we see at the border wall or the type of crime that we're starting to see pop up in these sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago. It definitely appears that these are a different breed of migrants, right, crossing the border now. Let's get into some more of what Chad had to say.
Chad, you've been on both sides of this issue before, working for an administration, dealing with it, and now out of that administration, having the opportunity to take an eagle-eye view of the situation. What are the first two things that need to happen to secure that border?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a wholesale change in the way that you approach this. And so whether it's restarting border wall construction in very priority locations, but first and foremost,
he said restart the border wall construction in priority locations. Democrats lie all the time concerning border walls and saying that it doesn't work. If you actually, and I don't have the reports in front of me right now, and I wish I did, but if you actually speak to Border Patrol and you look at actual reports done by U.S. Border Patrol, by all weights and measures, the border wall works. Building walls works. It works. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't have the information in front of me right now to prove that what I'm saying is true. But I'll make sure to have that in a later live stream. But I just wanted to make sure to reiterate that, that once again, we have this gentleman right here who's stating, well, first and foremost, we got to build the wall, right? We got to build the wall because border walls work. But then he's going to get into some more now of what else needs to be done to secure the border outside of building the wall.
That you approach this. And so whether it's restarting border wall construction in very priority locations, but first and foremost, probably it's ending catch and release and bringing deterrence and consequences back into the system. This idea of mass parole, which the Biden administration is doing, about 380,000 individuals, is probably higher at this point. All of these send a signal to folks that want to come to our country illegally that it's okay, that there are pathways to come here that you may not otherwise be available for. So whether it's abusing our asylum system or this unlawful use of parole, we're sending the wrong signals to folks to say it's okay to come here illegally. So I think that needs to be changed. That's the first thing I would likely change. And I think that starts to send a signal down the line to not only your law enforcement agents, but to the smugglers and traffickers and others who have been abusing this system for the past 3 years.
So end catch and release and actually enforce the law. Enforce the law. Actually put forth consequences for breaking the law. And that's not happening. That's not happening. We're hearing this now from numerous sources, from professionals that have actually been in position. Chad Wolf, formerly Brandon Judd, currently. These are people who have been in the past and are currently in charge of securing the U.S. border, who are saying the same thing over and over again. Under the Biden administration, no type of law is being enforced. We have this nonsensical catch and release practice that's in place, where no matter how you come into the country, and no matter if you put hands on Border Patrol agents, National Guards, doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you've entered the interior of the United States and put hands on NYPD or Chicago PD for that matter. It doesn't matter. You will be able to have asylum in this country, right? And as long as that's the case, as long as that is the current law that's in place, right, where illegal immigrants know that they have a free pass to do what they want once they get here and to cross the border however they feel they need, in whatever way they feel they need to do it, whether it's sneaking through or punching Border Patrol in the face, as long as they know that that's the law of the land under Biden and that you will not get deported and you can still seek asylum, then you can expect all this to continue. And I'll just say this in closing as well. As I've stated prior, the closer that we get to the election, the more intense the situation at the border is going to get, because the illegal immigrants are going to feel the wall starting to close in on them the closer we get to November, where more than likely Trump is going to win. More than likely he's going to win. It seems at this point almost impossible for him to not win unless there's some sort of, miracle that takes place. Like, we all go to sleep thinking that Trump won because that's what the numbers were pretty much saying. And then you wake up and guess who won in a landslide? You wake up in the morning and go, what? Wait, what just happened? Biden won? How? Unless something like that were to happen again, I can't see Biden winning. But as long as he stays in office, we can expect a madness at the border. And once again, I'll say this lastly, the last thing in closing, and I'm just reiterating the same thing once again. Things are going to get more crazy at the border. The more that they feel the walls are closing in on them, with essentially what appears to be an easy Trump victory. You're going to see the clashes that we've seen at the border recently, it's going to look like nothing compared to what we're going to see moving forward, because they're going to be trying to get over here before Trump gets in office. And I'll leave it at that. So with all that, I want to thank you all for joining me today. There are 480 of you in the stream right now. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And let me give my last thank yous to those who have showed love to the channel. Thank you very much, College of Natural Health and Science, for coming through once again. College of Natural Health and Science says, put us back in chains, please. Oh, okay, I know what you want. I got you. I got you. Give me just a second. College of Natural Health and Sciences. Black folks, we got to make sure that we get Biden back in office, because if we don't, Donald Trump's going to put us back in chains. He's going to bring back the transatlantic slave trade. And you might be shipped off to anywhere in the world.
They're going to put you all back in chains. They're going to put you all back in chains.
You know, the Republicans gonna put black folks back in chains if they get back in office. So, you know, hey, Biden Harris 2024 and Obama Harris or Harris Obama, Michelle Obama 2028, you know. Shout out to Kiko Senior for coming through with a super sticker. I appreciate you, Kiko, for always coming through as you do. And I appreciate all of you for showing the support that you showed me on this channel. I don't exist without your support. Thank you very much. And I will catch you all tomorrow evening. Until then, peace. Have a great evening and a safe one. See you later.